September 8, 2025. A single office memorandum lands on bureaucratic desks across India, and with it, the voices of millions are suddenly silenced. Not through force, not through violence, but through the stroke of a pen that declares their concerns irrelevant to national security. This is the story of how India chose to mine its future, without asking those who would pay the price. For decades, public consultation has been the cornerstone of environmental decision-making in India. The right to be heard, to question, to demand answers before your land is transformed forever. But when uranium, lithium, and rare earth elements became strategic necessities, vanished. Overnight, the Ministry of Environment declared these minerals too important for democracy. Let's understand what we are talking about here. Atomic minerals like uranium and thorium, the fuel of nuclear dreams. Strategic minerals like lithium and cobalt, the building blocks of our digital future. 24 elements that power everything from your smartphone to missile defense systems. The government didn't just call them valuable, they labeled them strategic. And that single word became a weapon against public participation. Two powerful ministries demanded this silence. The Ministry of Defense, warning that India's military depends on rare earth elements controlled by foreign nations, and the Department of Atomic Energy, hungry for uranium to fuel nuclear reactors. Both push the same message. Speed matters more than voices. National security trumps local concerns. The greater good requires individual sacrifice. But this is not a complete free-for-all. There is still oversight they promised. Projects will be reviewed at the central level by expert committees. Companies must submit detailed plans, address local impacts, promise jobs and infrastructure. Yet, something crucial is missing from this equation: the communities themselves. Their approval is no longer required, only their compliance. Nowhere is this tension more explosive than in Meghalaya, where uranium deposits worth billions lie beneath indigenous lands. When news of the exemption broke, it wasn't met with resigned acceptance. It sparked immediate, fierce resistance. Groups like the National People's Youth Front and Khasi Students' Union declared it an assault on indigenous rights, promising intensified resistance and potential widespread unrest. This resistance isn't just about protest, it's rooted in constitutional power. The sixth schedule of the Indian Constitution gives autonomous district councils like the Khasi Hills Autonomous District Council significant authority over tribal lands. It's almost like a veto power, a constitutional shield that local groups are now urging the council to raise against central government overreach. The constitutional confrontation runs deeper than local politics. It represents a fundamental clash between centralized development and tribal autonomy. When indigenous groups point out that 54% of critical mineral reserves worldwide sit on indigenous lands, they're connecting their struggle to a global pattern of resource extraction at the expense of native peoples. The legal landscape adds another layer of complexity to this battle. Just 1 month before this controversial exemption, the Kerala High Court struck down a similar order that tried to bypass public hearings for quarry projects. The court's message was clear: you cannot use executive orders to rewrite the rule book on public participation without solid justification. The Kerala ruling established a crucial precedent. If the government wants to silence public voices on environmental decisions, they must prove that consultation itself is genuinely against national interest. This new exemption for strategic minerals walks directly into the path cleared by that judicial warning, setting up what could be a landmark constitutional battle. But beyond legal arguments in constitutional theory lies a more haunting question. What happens to the people who live above these strategic minerals? To understand the fear-gripping Meghalaya, we must look at places where uranium mining has already left its mark. Places like Jadugoda in Jharkhand, where mining has continued since 1968. The health data from Jadugoda reads like a medical nightmare. Studies of villages near radioactive waste sites reveal impacts that fall disproportionately on women who manage household water, clean contaminated areas, and care for sick family members. The numbers are stark, unforgiving testimony to the true cost of strategic minerals. 40% miscarriage rate among women in the study sample, 10% experiencing multiple pregnancy losses, another 10% facing primary infertility, unable to conceive at all, but perhaps most devastating, 20% of children born with serious deformities, struggling with basic movement and speech, 1 in 5 children paying the price for strategic minerals with their bodies. The suffering extends beyond reproductive health, 60% of residents reporting severe skin conditions, 87% experiencing chronic symptoms like headaches, back pain, and persistent weakness. These aren't statistics, they are lifetimes altered, potential destroyed, pain passed down through generations like a toxic inheritance. When communities actually get the chance to speak, as they did during the Narvahapahar mine expansion hearing in 2016, their demands reveal the gap between corporate promises and community needs. They didn't necessarily oppose mining. They asked for priority hiring for locals, proper roads, free medical clinics, and educational support. Basic dignity in exchange for bearing the risks. The response was telling. The Uranium Corporation of India's corporate social responsibility budget was a mere 35 lakh rupees in 2015-16, maybe 65 lakhs planned for the following year. This tiny amount was supposed to cover water projects, medical camps, and community development. Compare that pittance to the potential for lifelong genetic damage. Here lies the central moral contradiction of strategic mineral extraction. The state demands these resources for long-term national benefit, for hitting net zero emissions by 2070, for achieving energy independence. Yet those who must live with the immediate and often irreversible consequences are denied even the right to voice their concerns about these projects. The exemption represents more than policy change. It's a philosophical shift about whose voices matter in India's development story. When public consultation becomes optional, when strategic importance overrides democratic participation, we are not just extracting minerals from the earth, we are extracting democracy from decision-making. This controversy forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the price of progress. Can the nation truly call itself developed if it achieves strategic autonomy by silencing its most vulnerable citizens? Can we build a sustainable future on the foundation of environmental injustice? Can national security be genuinely secure when it is purchased with local insecurity? As this battle unfolds between Meghalaya's hills and Delhi's corridors of power, between constitutional rights and strategic necessities, we are witnessing more than a mining dispute. We are seeing a test of whether India's democracy can survive its own ambitions, whether the voices of the few can still be heard above the demands of the many, and whether progress built on silent suffering can ever truly be called progress at all. Sometimes the most strategic resource of all is the right to say no, and that's a mineral no government should have the power to extract. That's all for this video on UPSC Wise. If you found this video helpful, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to grab the PDF notes on my Telegram, link in the description. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving closer to your IAS dream. Jai Hind.